Making a farm for the new Resin and Eyeblossom is weirder than you think. Hello there, Ray here, and we're on the Bedrock Edition trying out the new features. The Eyeblossom as well as the Resin clumps are renewable resources that can be obtained here in the Pale Garden biome. You get more Eyeblossom just by bone milling grass blocks in this biome, and you'll get a chance of producing some of the new flowers. You can also get more of them just by planting one on any grass or dirt, and then when you bone mill it, there's a chance that it'll spawn more of them on nearby blocks of grass. And this can also be automated with just a dispenser on a single one, but this bone milling of flowers individually is a Bedrock Edition only thing. But for Job Edition, we can use the dispenser on the grass block to have a chance at getting the new flowers. This means you can combine it with my already pre-existing flower farms, and just by building the farm inside of the Pale Garden biome, it will automatically produce these flowers. But what can you actually do with these flowers? Well, water will destroy them and drop them as your item, and depending on if they're open or closed, they will actually drop those forms of the flower. Now they only open during nighttime, but they don't immediately open. Instead, they take a little while to open, and if there's other ones that are open nearby, they will encourage the ones that are closed to also open. So once it turns daytime, you can see they are now closing up. Now when they do change, this can be detected by an observer and produce a redstone signal. You can use this as sort of a daylight sensor detector, but with a little bit of randomness after the day starts. Now you can place them in flower pots, but despite being in a flower pot, it still managed to close. This might actually be a bug. But in the end dimension and nether dimension, since there's no day cycles, they will stay open or close however you place them down. And both types of flowers can be used in a composter. Make sure to leave a like on the video. They get their name as when they open up, the center orange piece looks like the eyes of the creaking, and the flowers don't appear to put off any light. And besides using the blossoms as aesthetic build, you can place them into your crafting grid, and the closed ones will produce gray dye, where the open ones will produce orange dye. But there's already currently easier ways to get gray dye with bone meal for the white, as well as wither roses or ink sacs for the black. And orange isn't too difficult as we have roses as well as sunflowers, which can produce reds and yellows for plenty of orange dye. You can also make a new type of suspicious stew by using the new flour, and when you eat this, it will give you nausea. But if you craft it using the open version, it'll produce a different type of suspicious stew, that when you eat it, it'll give you the blindness effect. But these suspicious stews don't really help with the how do we get here advancement, as you normally would already get these effects from eating a pufferfish as well as a azure bullet suspicious stew. When bees interact with these flowers, they will get poisoned from them. This kind of plays in with the entire lore of this whole Pale Garden biome being kind of a desolate and dangerous place to go. And bees will not follow you if you're holding this flower, and they won't use it to breed either. But it does seem like the bees try to get nectar from them, which is really strange. Even though they keep getting poisoned, they can't actually die from the poison. But it seems like they're actually able to get pollen from them. As you can see, they are dripping from pollen now. You could actually use this in a honey farm if you enjoy torturing your bees. Now, wandering traders can normally sell all the different types of flowers with a few exceptions, and it seems like the new Eyeblossoms are not sold by them. Now, with most flowers, if you have them adjacent to a sapling when it grows, there's a chance that that tree will produce a beehive in it, but it seems like these new types of flowers don't actually allow beehives to generate on trees. And Endermen don't seem interested in picking up these flowers. How well do you like this new flower? Now for the resin, it's also renewable. You get it from hitting these creaking mobs. Every time you hit it, what it's going to do is produce resin at the original location of where its creaking heart is at. So its heart is in this tree here. So each time it gets hit, it produces around 2 to 3 of the actual resin on blocks near where the actual heart is at. So if I hit it a couple more times, you can see that resin actually can spread. Now the resin itself is very similar to stalk veins, where you can place them down on all different sides of a block. You can use this as a way to kind of add a new texture to pre-existing blocks in the game. So placing on something like stone makes it look like a new type of ore. And like the veins, they can hold back water as well as be waterlogged themselves, which are some pretty useful features. Now the resin doesn't do anything when you try to climb it or slide down it. Now when placing a block at the same location as resin, it will immediately replace it. Now where the resin is placed in is based off of where the heart is. As for every creaking heart to actually summon in a creaking, there has to be a log above it as below it. It can put in between 2 and 3 other resins, and if the creaking gets hit multiple times, it can just keep adding more resin layers and spreading across the area, which makes the log look like it has chickenpox. Now the resin can spread as far as 3 blocks away from the heart, but it seems that the chance of it spawning in is smaller the farther it has to go out. And I already made a little farm to harvest tons of this resin, so if I hit this guy here, it's going to produce some resin around the outside of this trunk here in the center. And then if I push this button here, it's going to push these logs over, breaking off the resin, and then resetting it. And then if you hit it again, it'll produce some more resin, and we can just have this on a clock, so it's constantly breaking off, being collected by hoppers, and eventually making it into our storage. Now, using other mobs to hit the creaking won't produce any resin, but it does work with a pet dog, so we can automate the process of getting tons of resin. Now in Java Edition, we could just use some sticky pistons to drop the blocks back again, but in Bedrock Edition, sticky pistons can't actually drop blocks. It is nice that they made creaking actually have a decent use for a farm, although every time it turns daylight, the creaking will vanish, so you have to get a new one at night, as well as if you unload the chunks or if you get too far from it, it will also vanish. So it's one of those farms you'll have to have a player stand nearby. But I'll probably have to adjust this farm in Java Edition, as things will probably be a little bit different. So make sure you're still subscribed so you don't miss out on the video where I apply this to Java Edition. I did go into more detail about all the weird behaviors of the creaking mob in this video here, which you can check out in the description after this video. But what can you actually do with this resin? Well, if you put it into a crafting grid 3x3, you can get the new block of resin, which has a similar texture as the raw blocks. And the orange on these blocks is very vibrant and separates itself from the other orange-like blocks. You could then take the resin block and craft it in a crafting grid along with pale oak, which makes yourself the creaking heart. This makes creaking hearts renewable, so you can easily add these guys into your minigame or into a farm. If you break down the creaking heart without silk touch, it will drop some resin. The resin clumps are also used to trim armor to give it a unique orange color. This is what the full set looks like on an armor stand. We can also take the resin clumps and put them into a furnace and cook them down to resin bricks. Now, resin does not work in a blast furnace or a smoker. The resin bricks can then be used in a crafting grid, and they have a texture very similar to normal bricks. And they also have just as confusing names, with the individual bricks called just resin brick, where the block of a brick is called resin bricks, the only difference being an S at the end of it. And the bricks can be crafted into stairs as well as walls and even slabs. And if you craft 2 slabs in a crafting grid, you can get the new chiseled resin bricks. Like the other types of chiseled bricks in the game, it has a face in it, and this face is the new creaking mob. And I think this is one of the best looking blocks in the game. What do you think of this new resin? Now currently the resin doesn't work with pistons, so you can't use it as like alternative to sticky pistons. And the resin blocks are not like slime blocks or honey blocks, so they don't actually grab nearby blocks that are adjacent to them, but hopefully they can add something like this in the future. Now earlier this year during the April Fools, they did come out something called toxic resin, which could be fletched down into the amber gem and even turned into a block of amber, as amber is just a fossilized version of resin. So it'll be interesting to see if they add in any of this amber stuff. In the Illagers mansions, you can actually find the resin bricks as well as clumps, which further adds to the lore with these guys and the creaking. If you guys haven't seen my previous video where I discovered that the creaking mob was actually something that scares away the Illagers. So maybe these guys actually went to the Pale Forest and grabbed some of the resin, had a really bad experience, and never wanted to deal with the creaking again. If you have any questions about the flour or the resin that I didn't cover, let me know in the comments. Now check out this video about the farms that break with the Bundle of Bravery update, as well as new farms that were introduced. Thanks to all my monthly supporters, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!